Do you know anyone who struggles with anger but keeps it hidden because they're afraid of how people might see them? Someone who swears they'll stay calm, promises they won't explode again, but the moment stress hits, traffic, work pressure, family tension, they lose control. They say things they don't mean. They break trust they worked years to build. And afterward, they sit alone feeling guilty, ashamed, and confused about why something so small can set them off. You've probably seen this happen. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's someone in your home. And maybe, if you're honest, it's you. Some people try therapy, breathing exercises, journaling, meditation apps, long walks, cold showers, and none of it sticks. Because once the real-world pressure arrives, everything they practiced disappears. But what if anger isn't something you control with willpower? What if the real problem is that you're trying to fight a fire at the moment it's already burning? There is a Japanese system that fixes anger at its source, not during the explosion, but before it even begins. It's called Seijaku, the discipline of inner silence, stillness, and composure. It's used by monks, martial artists, and people who need calm under pressure. And before you think this is some mystical ritual, let me tell you, it's practical, it's simple, and it works even if your life is chaotic, stressful, and full of responsibility. If you want to understand how Seijaku can rebuild your emotional stability, stay with me. Before we get into the system, take a moment and subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment with one situation where you lose your temper the most. I read every comment, and many video ideas come from your stories. Thank you for always supporting the channel. Now let's explore how you can transform anger, not by force, but by discipline. Chapter 1. When anger becomes a habit. Most people think anger is something that happens in a single moment. A sudden spark, a quick explosion, something that comes and goes depending on what's happening around you. But the truth is much more uncomfortable. Anger is rarely born in the moment you feel it. It's built slowly, quietly, and almost invisibly, long before you lose control. The real danger is that anger becomes a pattern, a habit, a learned response that strengthens each time you react the same way. Think about the last time you exploded at someone you love. Maybe it was your partner, your child, a coworker, or a stranger who cut you off in traffic. In that moment, it felt sudden, immediate, like a switch flipped and you had no time to think. But if you rewind the day a little, you'll start to see signs you ignored. You didn't sleep well. You rushed through breakfast. You felt overwhelmed at work. You pushed down feelings you didn't want to deal with. You kept telling yourself you were fine. And then someone said one small thing, and everything boiled over. The problem wasn't that final moment. The problem was the dozen moments before it. Anger rarely begins with the thing we blame for it. It begins much earlier, when life builds pressure and we do nothing to release it. People often misunderstand anger as an emotional explosion. But in reality, anger is a storage problem. You carry too much until your body and mind can't hold it anymore. And that's where Seijaku discipline begins. Not when anger appears, but long before it does. The silent build-up. If you study people who struggle with anger, you notice something interesting. Their anger episodes are predictable. Maybe not in exact timing, but in the pattern. The same type of situation. The same emotional triggers. The same pressure points. It's almost like watching someone walk through a house blindfolded. They keep hitting the same furniture in the same spot every day. A person who snaps at their family often doesn't snap at strangers. A person who explodes at work often stays quiet at home. A person who loses control while driving is perfectly calm when shopping for groceries. This means anger isn't random. It chooses targets that feel safe. And the buildup often starts with frustration or emotional clutter that has nothing to do with the target. A rough day at work turns into shouting at home. Financial stress turns into irritation with your partner. Feeling unappreciated becomes coldness toward loved ones. Unresolved guilt becomes defensiveness with friends. Anger is misdirected energy. It lands where it doesn't belong. And afterward, the same person feels shame because deep inside, they know the explosion didn't match the situation. Most people try to fix anger by telling themselves, I just need to stay calm. I'll breathe next time. I won't let it get to me. And they might mean it sincerely. But the issue isn't commitment. The issue is that you can't fix an emotional explosion in the middle of the explosion. You cannot repair a ship during a storm. You repair it when the sea is calm. That's where Seijaku changes everything. The body remembers every reaction. Your body keeps a record of your responses. Each time you react angrily, your brain strengthens that pathway. It becomes familiar, comfortable even. Your body learns. Stress equals anger. Frustration equals anger. Feeling threatened equals anger. Eventually, anger becomes the brain's shortcut to avoid vulnerability. It produces intensity instead of introspection. It gives you a temporary feeling of control when you actually feel powerless. This is why many people explode over things that don't matter. It isn't because those things are truly important. It's because the brain is trained to pick anger as the fastest response. But here's the important part. If anger can become a habit, calm can too. Seijaku discipline teaches silence, stillness, and internal space. It rewires your nervous system by teaching your body a new reaction before emotions rise. Instead of tension, release. Instead of intensity, clarity. Instead of pressure, emptiness. Seijaku doesn't ask you to suppress anger. Suppression makes everything worse. It asks you to slow down the internal buildup so the explosion never forms in the first place. The real cost of anger. People think anger only hurts in the moment, but its cost continues long after you cool down. It affects how people look at you. It damages trust in relationships. It makes children afraid, even when you think they'll forget. It distances you from partners who want connection, not survival. It kills intimacy, emotional openness, and peace. And emotionally, anger drains you. After an explosion, you feel empty, embarrassed, and often confused about why it happened. But the worst part is the loss of respect, both self-respect and the respect of those around you. Anger gives temporary power, but it creates long-term weakness. The strongest people are not the ones who shout or threaten. The strongest people are the ones who remain calm in chaos. The ones whose presence settles the room. The ones others look toward, not away from. This strength doesn't come naturally. It requires training. And that training begins with understanding how anger grows inside you before it erupts. Seijaku discipline teaches you how to see the storm coming long before you hear the thunder. Why willpower will never save you. Most people rely on willpower to control anger. I'll force myself to stay calm. I just need better self-control. I won't let this happen again. But willpower is a terrible tool in emotional moments. The moment stress hits, willpower collapses. Your brain becomes reactive, not logical. The emotional system takes over, and the rational mind shuts down. Trying to use willpower during an anger spike is like trying to hold back a river with your hands. Seijaku replaces willpower with preparation, with practice, with awareness of small signals, with deep internal quiet. It trains your mind to stay grounded before tension takes control. When practiced consistently, it prevents the emotional flood from even forming. If anger is a fire, then Seijaku is the removal of oxygen. The flames never ignite. Not suppression, not avoidance, not weakness. There is a common misunderstanding that staying calm means being passive or weak. But calmness is not weakness. It's control. Suppressing anger is weakness because you're hiding from your own emotions. Seijaku teaches expression without explosion. It gives you authority over your emotional state, not denial of it. Here's the difference. Suppression. I'm not angry. I won't say anything. I'll swallow it. Avoidance. I'll ignore the problem. Maybe it will go away. Weakness. I'm afraid of conflict, so I stay silent. Seijaku discipline. I acknowledge the emotion. I slow it down. I respond, not react. This is emotional maturity. It's strength built through practice, not denial. The moment you realize you've had enough. Most people start their journey to control anger at a moment of consequence. A partner saying they're tired of being afraid. A child's face shrinking when you raise your voice. A friendship permanently damaged. A job opportunity lost because you reacted too intensely. A quiet moment alone when you feel ashamed of who you've become. Anger transforms from something that just happens into something that shapes your identity. That's when people finally understand something must change. Seijaku is not a punishment. It's not a rule book. It's a path back to yourself. It's a return to clarity, to emotional safety, to strength. It's the choice to stop letting anger control your life. The first step toward mastery. Before you learn the techniques, breathwork, posture, or mental habits of Seijaku, you need one thing: awareness of your emotional buildup. You cannot fix a problem you refuse to see. Notice when tension begins. Notice when irritation rises. Notice when your mind tightens. Notice when your breathing changes. Notice when your jaw locks. Notice the moment your thoughts become sharp and narrow. These are the quiet steps leading toward the explosion. This awareness is your foundation. Without it, nothing else will work. With it, every method becomes easier. Anger doesn't begin loud. It begins quiet. You must learn to hear it. Once you can recognize this early stage, you'll be ready to build the discipline of Seijaku. Because the system isn't about reacting better. It's about preventing the storm from forming in the first place. Chapter 2. Seeing the anger before it arrives. Most people only notice their anger at the moment when it erupts. Their voice rises, their heart pounds, their breathing becomes sharp, and they suddenly feel that familiar flood of heat rushing through their body. But the truth is, anger gives warnings long before it reaches that point. It whispers before it ever screams. The reason people feel out of control is not because anger is stronger than them. It's because they spent years ignoring its early signs. If Chapter 1 was about understanding how anger grows quietly inside you, then this chapter is about learning to recognize the very first steps of that growth. The steps most people never see until it's too late. Seijaku discipline begins with awareness, not force. Before you can change how you react, you have to learn how to see what most people overlook. The first signal, the tightening of the mind. Long before anger shows in your voice or your actions, something happens internally. Your mind becomes narrow. Your thoughts tighten around a single point. You stop seeing the full picture and instead focus on what feels threatening or disrespectful. It might be something small, a comment that rubs you the wrong way, a tone of voice you interpret negatively, a delay that frustrates you, a mistake someone makes, a memory that suddenly appears. At first, it's nothing more than a minor irritation. But irritation is the seed. If you don't notice it, it grows into resentment. If you still ignore it, resentment becomes anger. And eventually, anger becomes a reflex. The moment your mind begins to tighten, that's the true beginning of the emotional cycle. This is the moment most people never acknowledge. If you can recognize this early stage, you can reshape the entire path that follows. The second signal, your body speaks before you do. Every emotion shows in your body before it shows in your words. Anger is no different. Before a single word comes out of your mouth, your body gives dozens of signals. You just haven't trained yourself to notice them. The shoulders rise. The jaw tenses. The breath becomes shallow. The hands tighten slightly. The chest feels warm. The eye muscles contract. The back stiffens. The stomach gets tight. These small changes often happen in seconds, but they are incredibly important. They are your body's way of saying something is building. If you ignore these early physical signals, the emotional buildup continues unchecked. In Seijaku discipline, noticing these physical signs is not about stopping them. It's about understanding the truth. Anger is not sudden. It builds one physical reaction at a time. This understanding alone takes away a huge part of its power. The third signal, the emotional echo. Before anger explodes, another emotion usually appears first. For different people it can be frustration, disappointment, embarrassment, fear, insecurity, jealousy, guilt, or even sadness. Anger often grows on top of these emotions because they are more uncomfortable to feel. Anger hides vulnerability. It replaces softness with hardness, insecurity with intensity. When you're hurt, it feels safer to be angry. When you're embarrassed, it feels easier to lash out. When you feel ignored, it feels powerful to raise your voice. When you feel disrespected, anger becomes your shield. In this sense, anger is not the first emotion. It is often the second or even the third. It is a response you learn to use because the earlier emotions felt too raw. If you can learn to recognize the emotional echo, the feeling before the anger, then you can interrupt the entire cycle. What am I actually feeling right now? What came before this irritation? What emotion did I try to avoid? These questions open a door inside you. And once the door is open, anger loses its invisibility. The fourth signal, the mental story. Every burst of anger has a story behind it. Not the truth of the situation, but the story your mind creates around it. He disrespected me. She doesn't listen to me. They think I'm stupid. This always happens to me. I'm tired of people treating me like this. It's unfair. Notice something about these thoughts. They are absolute. They leave no room for alternative explanations. They paint you as the victim, the one under attack, the one justified in responding with force. These internal stories make anger feel righteous. They make you feel like you should react. Like reacting aggressively is the only reasonable choice. If you have ever felt that rush of "I'm right to feel this," then you've experienced the mental story in action. Seijaku discipline doesn't challenge the emotion directly. It challenges the story. Is this thought true? Is it the only explanation? What part of this is old pain resurfacing? What part of this is my fear speaking? What part of this is my ego wanting control? When you ask these questions, the story weakens. And when the story weakens, the anger has nothing to stand on. The fifth signal, the silence before the explosion. There is a moment right before you react, when everything goes strangely quiet. It's the pause where your mind tries to decide between restraint and release. Most people ignore this moment completely. They rush past it and let the emotion take over. But if you train yourself to become aware of this silent space, it becomes a powerful tool. This silence is the last window where calm is still possible. The last point where you can change your reaction. The last breath before the storm takes over. Seijaku discipline teaches you to enter this silence consciously, to stretch it, to widen it, to make it long enough for clarity to enter. The longer this silence becomes, the less power the anger holds. Eventually, the silence becomes your default, not the explosion. Why most people never see these signals? Most people grew up in environments where emotional awareness wasn't taught. Maybe anger was normal in your home. Maybe people raised their voices frequently. Maybe you learned that staying silent was better than speaking honestly. Or maybe you grew up believing emotions should be hidden, not understood. When no one teaches you to notice your emotional signals, you become blind to them. When no one teaches you to pause, you forget that pausing is an option. When no one teaches you discipline, your reactions become automatic. Seijaku discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about learning to see what you've ignored your entire life. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. That awareness alone changes everything. The first real practice of Seijaku. Before you learn any advanced exercises, there is one simple practice that forms the foundation. Observe your emotional rise, not during anger, but before it. This means, when you feel irritation, pause. When your shoulders tighten, breathe. When your thoughts narrow, expand them intentionally. When another emotion appears, name it. When the mental story appears, question it. This practice is not dramatic. It doesn't feel heroic. It might even feel subtle or too simple at first. But this is where transformation begins. Anger is loud. Awareness is quiet. But awareness always wins if you let it. No one told you it's a skill. Many people feel broken because they struggle with anger. They assume something is wrong with them. They think they're naturally hot-tempered or easily triggered. But that isn't true. Anger control is not a personality trait. It's not something you're born with. It's not something you magically gain with time. It's a skill, a trainable, repeatable skill based on awareness, breath, posture, and clarity. People who seem naturally calm are not different. They learn skills you were never taught. The good news is that you can learn them too. Seijaku isn't about denying your humanity. It's about giving your humanity structure, giving your emotions space, giving your reactions room to breathe instead of suffocating inside you. The turning point. There comes a moment when you realize that anger isn't just damaging your relationships. It's damaging your quality of life. It steals peace. It drains energy. It makes you feel ashamed afterward. And maybe the worst part is how predictable it becomes. But once you recognize the early signals, once you see the anger forming before it arrives, you regain something you lost long ago. Choice. Not the illusion of choice, but real choice. The ability to respond from clarity, not just react from habit. The ability to transform your emotional life one quiet moment at a time. This is the beginning of Seijaku discipline. Not silence forced from fear, but silence chosen from strength. Chapter 3. The Discipline of Stillness in Motion. Most people think calm is something you find only when life is quiet. A clean room, a slow morning, a walk alone. But Seijaku teaches something different. It teaches that true calm is not what you feel when the world pauses. It is what you carry while the world keeps going. Stillness in motion. Peace in the middle of noise. Control in the middle of chaos. This is the part of Seijaku that separates casual self-help advice from something deeper and far more demanding. Anyone can breathe slowly when nothing is happening. Anyone can relax when no one is pushing their buttons. But your real state of mind is revealed when things don't go your way, when someone interrupts you, when plans collapse, when you're tired, hungry, overwhelmed, and the last thing you want is one more problem in your day. That's when anger slips through the cracks. That's when your reactions show who is really in control, you or your impulses. Seijaku trains you to stay centered even in the middle of movement. It teaches you to remain grounded as life swirls around you. And the truth is, you don't learn this by escaping the noise. You learn it by moving through the noise without letting it claim your mind. The storm outside versus the silence inside. Picture a storm. Wind, rain, thunder, everything raging at once. Now imagine a solid stone lantern you might see in a Japanese garden. The storm hits it from every side, but it doesn't sway. It doesn't flinch. It stands where it is, silent, unmoved. This is how the Japanese view inner discipline. You don't stop the storm. You stand steady inside it. Anger works like weather. Sometimes it arrives suddenly. Sometimes it builds slowly. Sometimes it comes from one sharp moment. Other times from a long chain of small frustrations that finally snap. Most people try to fight the storm as it happens. They try to stop their anger in the moment it explodes. But by then, it's already too late. The storm has already entered them. Seijaku takes a different approach. Instead of fighting anger after it rises, it trains you to keep your center so the anger has nothing to attach to. The external storm stays outside. You feel it, but you do not become it. A lesson from martial arts. If you watch Japanese martial artists, you'll notice something striking. Their movements are swift, sharp, and powerful, but their faces rarely show emotion. Not because they're suppressing anything, but because their minds are steady. A punch comes toward them. They respond. A foot sweeps near their head. They adjust. A mistake happens. They correct it without frustration. The dojo is a place where Seijaku is not just theory. It is trained into the body. A fighter cannot afford to get angry. Anger clouds judgment, shortens breathing, tightens muscles, and shakes focus. The calm fighter sees more, reacts faster, and moves cleaner. Stillness inside movement is what gives them precision. One master once said, "Your opponent is never the man in front of you. Your opponent is the emotion that tries to rise inside you." That is Seijaku, the everyday test. Most people won't face an attacker in a dojo, but everyone faces moments that try to provoke them. You're rushing to work and someone blocks the sidewalk. A coworker interrupts you during a stressful moment. A family member says something careless at the wrong time. A driver cuts you off. A stranger bumps your shoulder without apologizing. Your first instinct may be to react, to glare, to snap, to mutter something under your breath, to clench your teeth, to raise your voice. And for a brief second, anger promises something. It tells you that reacting will make you feel powerful. It says that expressing your irritation will make the moment feel fair. But anger lies. It gives you a few seconds of heat and then leaves you with regret, exhaustion, or a sense of losing control. Seijaku breaks that cycle. It trains you to interrupt the automatic reaction, even when the trigger comes fast. Instead of snapping, you pause. Instead of tightening, you loosen. Instead of letting the moment push you, you anchor yourself. That pause is where Seijaku lives. The power of non-reaction. Non-reaction doesn't mean you tolerate bad behavior. It doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you choose your response instead of letting it be chosen for you. Anger thrives on momentum. If you feed it with quick reactions, it grows. If you starve it with silence, it fades. Think about the last time you reacted impulsively. Maybe you raised your voice or typed something harsh or stormed out of a room. Later, when your mind was quieter, you probably thought, I shouldn't have done that. I wish I had handled it better. Seijaku gives you that clarity before the reaction, not after. It creates a small open space between the trigger and your response. In that space, you see yourself. You see your impulse. You see your emotion. And you can choose. Most people never develop this skill. They move straight from emotion to action. They don't even realize there is a space in between. Seijaku trains you to find it. What's beneath anger? The Japanese view anger not as the primary emotion, but as a cover. Beneath anger is something else. Sometimes it's wounded pride. Sometimes fear. Sometimes exhaustion. Sometimes a lack of control. Sometimes a deep need to feel respected or understood. When you slow down your response, you have enough space to see what's really going on inside you. You begin to understand the real message your anger is carrying. And once you understand it, the emotion loses its power to control you. This is why Seijaku is not about eliminating emotion. It is about mastering the space where emotions transform. Seijaku in Japanese daily life. You can see this discipline everywhere in Japanese culture. A tea master pours water with steady hands, even if guests are talking loudly or arriving late. A craftsman sanding wood keeps his movements exact, even if there's pressure to finish quickly. A train conductor bows to passengers even when running behind schedule. A calligrapher breathes slowly before each stroke, no matter how many people are watching. None of this is an accident. All of it is Seijaku. All of it is the practice of calm inside motion. The world may hurry, but the individual does not. The moment may be stressful, but the response is chosen. This habit shapes not only the moment, but the person who moves through it. How stillness becomes second nature. At first, Seijaku feels difficult. Your mind wants to jump. Your breath wants to shorten. Your body wants to respond fast. But the more you practice, the more automatic the calm becomes. One day, you notice you're no longer rushing to respond. Another day, you realize someone tried to provoke you, and it didn't work. Then a moment arrives where you feel anger rising, but your breath slows before your mind reacts. That is the shift. Your nervous system begins to trust the calm more than the chaos. Your body learns that it doesn't need to tense up to face challenges. Your mind learns that clarity feels better than heat. You stop reacting to noise and start responding to truth. The quiet strength you build. By practicing stillness in motion, you develop a strength most people never reach. Not physical strength, inner strength. The strength to face stress without breaking. To hear harsh words without losing your ground. To navigate conflict without letting your emotions drown you. People misinterpret calm as weakness, but calm is a higher form of strength. It is not passive. It is not fragile. It is stable, decisive, and deeply controlled. A calm mind doesn't avoid standing up for itself. It simply waits until the right moment and responds with clarity, not impulse. This is why Seijaku is so powerful for anger control. It doesn't force anger down. It transforms it. It gives you a new state of mind where anger no longer dominates your choices, carrying stillness everywhere. As you continue the practice, you begin to bring Seijaku into every part of your life. In conversations, you listen more and react less. In stressful situations, you breathe instead of snapping. In conflict, you speak from clarity instead of emotion. In daily life, you move with more intention and less noise. You become someone who cannot be easily provoked. Someone who carries calm like a shield. Someone who navigates life without being dragged by every passing emotion. That is the heart of Seijaku. A stillness you can carry anywhere, no matter who tests you or what challenges appear. Chapter 4. The Path to Lifelong Emotional Mastery. If the first 3 chapters of Seijaku teach you how to observe anger, interrupt it, and remain centered in the middle of motion, then this final chapter teaches you something deeper. Seijaku is not a technique you try once in a while. It isn't a trick you pull out only during conflict. It is a way of moving through life. A way of shaping your mind, a way of relating to the world, so that anger never has the space to grow into something uncontrollable. Emotional mastery sounds like a heavy phrase, but in the Japanese understanding, it simply means this: your emotions belong to you, not the other way around. Most people live the opposite way. Their mood swings with every comment, every frustration, every unexpected problem. They wake up calm, but lose it within minutes. One small inconvenience can change the whole day. Their emotional world is fragile. Seijaku builds one that is stable. Let's step deeper into what it means to carry this discipline for life. The difference between control and suppression. When people first hear about anger control, they often think it means pushing the emotion down, pretending they aren't upset, acting polite while burning inside. But suppression is dangerous. It doesn't make anger disappear, it buries it. And buried anger always finds another exit. Maybe in resentment, maybe in sarcasm, maybe in sudden outbursts later, maybe in stress that wears down the body. Seijaku goes in a different direction. It teaches you to pause and breathe so you can observe the emotion without acting on it. In that pause, something powerful happens. The anger becomes visible. You can see what triggered it. You can see what part of you reacted. You can even see the softer emotion hiding under the fire. You are not pushing anything down. You are lifting it up long enough to understand it. In the Japanese view, the moment you understand an emotion, you become larger than it. When you are larger than it, you can guide it. And when you can guide it, it no longer controls your choices. This is emotional mastery, the slow refinement of the mind. Emotional mastery doesn't arrive in one moment. It happens through repeated refinement. Think of a sword maker. He heats the steel, folds it, hammers it, cools it, and repeats this process again and again. Each cycle removes impurities. Each cycle makes the blade sharper, stronger, more reliable. The Japanese believe the mind is refined the same way. Every moment that challenges your patience is a fold of the steel. Every pause you take instead of reacting is a hammer that shapes you. Every breath that interrupts your impulse is a layer of strength that was not there before. Over months and years, you become someone who doesn't just control anger, but rarely feels overwhelmed by it. Not because you never get upset. You're human. You feel everything. But anger doesn't take over. It doesn't hijack your decisions. It doesn't drain you. You feel it, understand it, and let it pass. This quiet refinement is one of the core principles of Seijaku, living with a still center. Think of your mind as a lake. If the surface is disturbed, you cannot see the bottom. Everything becomes distorted. But when the surface is still, everything becomes clear. Anger is like a stone thrown into the lake. If the water is already disturbed, the splash creates chaos. If the water is calm, the stone sinks quietly and the surface settles quickly. Seijaku trains your lake to stay still So even when life throws stones, they don't destroy your clarity. You return to calm faster. You recover from conflict faster. You speak from awareness instead of emotion. People feel that difference immediately, even if they cannot explain it. Someone with Seijaku seems grounded. Their presence feels steady. Their energy feels warm instead of sharp. They do not intimidate others with their calm, but they command respect because they control themselves so well. That is what a still center creates. When others lose control around you. A powerful part of emotional mastery is learning how to stay centered when others around you are not. Everyone has encountered someone who is angry, anxious, hostile, or emotional. In those moments, many people get pulled into the other person's energy. If someone raises their voice, they raise theirs. If someone speaks harshly, they respond harshly. If someone is emotional, they get emotional too. This is how conflict escalates without thinking. Seijaku teaches the opposite. When someone loses control near you, you don't mirror them. You steady yourself. You slow down your breath, which automatically slows your voice. You speak gently, not to please them, but to guide the moment back to a calmer state. And when your mind stays clear, you see the situation more accurately. Is this person overwhelmed? Are they scared? Are they reacting to something that happened earlier? Are they misunderstanding something? Do they just need space? This level of clarity gives you options. You don't get trapped in their wave. You become the anchor in the room. Your calm helps settle the atmosphere. And often, the other person begins to match your energy without realizing it. This is one of the quiet powers of Seijaku. Your calm doesn't stay inside you. It radiates outward. The hidden enemy, ego. In Japanese philosophy, one of the biggest obstacles to emotional mastery is not anger itself, but ego. Ego creates the voice inside you that says, "How dare they talk to me like that? I need to prove my point. I won't let them win. I deserve better. They need to know they're wrong." Ego inflames anger. Ego fuels conflict. Ego convinces you that reacting will restore your dignity. But reacting almost always does the opposite. It makes you look less in control, less grounded, more unsettled, more reactive. Seijaku invites you to step back from ego. When you remove ego from anger, the fire weakens immediately. You stop reacting to protect your pride. You start responding to protect your peace. And when peace becomes your priority, you make very different choices. You walk away when it's smarter. You let certain comments go because they're not worth your energy. You speak only when your words can add clarity, not heat. You solve problems instead of feeding them. Letting go of ego is a lifelong practice. But every time you do it, you reclaim more mastery over your emotions. The rituals that support calm. Seijaku is not only built in moments of conflict. It is also built through the daily rituals that keep your mind steady. Here are practices commonly used in Japan to maintain internal calm. 1. Quiet morning time. Starting the day without rushing sets a tone of stability. 2. Walking meditation. Moving slowly and breathing deeply while walking, especially in nature. 3. Mindful cleaning. Tidying a room with calm, deliberate movements. It trains patience and focus. 4. Tea preparation. Brewing tea with attention to the sound, temperature, and motion. A classic Seijaku ritual. 5. Slow eating. Tasting each bite fully instead of rushing through meals. 6. Writing thoughts. Putting emotions on paper so the mind doesn't carry all the weight. These rituals create a quiet baseline. They strengthen your center, so when anger-provoking moments arise, you are prepared. Your mind is already calm. Your breath is already slow. You meet chaos from a place of stability, not struggle. Understanding that mastery is not perfection. Even the calmest person loses control sometimes. Even masters feel anger. Emotional mastery doesn't mean you never slip. It means you slip less often, recover faster, and learn from each moment instead of feeling defeated by it. Some days you'll handle everything perfectly. You'll pause, breathe, stay grounded, and feel proud of how you responded. Other days, you'll react before you think. You'll feel the anger spike and act in a way you didn't want. Both days are part of the path. Japan has a phrase, even dust, when piled up, becomes mountain. Your progress also grows this way. Small moments of calm, added together over weeks and months, become a deep stability that no single event can shake. Mastery comes not from perfection, but from persistence. Why this path matters. Almost every problem in life becomes harder when anger controls you. Relationships suffer. Work becomes stressful. Decisions turn impulsive. Small issues grow into big ones. You waste emotional energy on temporary frustrations. And the worst part is, the moments of anger rarely solve anything. Seijaku is the opposite. It gives you a mind that can stay clear through difficulty, a presence that diffuses tension, a way of thinking that keeps you grounded when others fall apart. It improves relationships because you communicate clearly instead of emotionally. It improves work because you stay focused. It improves personal life because you remain steady. But above all, it improves your relationship with yourself. You stop regretting your reactions. You stop feeling ashamed of your impulses. You stop being at war with your own emotions. This brings a quiet confidence that can't be faked, a lifelong companion. In the Japanese understanding, Seijaku is not only a discipline, it is a companion that follows you through every stage of life. It guides you when you're young and easily triggered. It supports you when work becomes stressful. It helps you raise children with patience. It strengthens you during arguments with loved ones. It steadies you when you face loss or fear. It calms you as you age and reflect on your life. Seijaku becomes more than a skill. It becomes part of who you are, a calm presence, a steady heartbeat, a mind that is not shaken by every change in the world. This is emotional mastery, not the absence of emotion, but the deep ability to guide it. If you've reached this point in the video, I want to thank you. It means you didn't just watch this to feel inspired for a few minutes. You stayed because a part of you is ready to change how you deal with anger, and maybe even how you deal with yourself. That already places you ahead of the version of you who hit play at the beginning. What we talked about here isn't a quick fix. It isn't a trick or a shortcut. Seijaku is a discipline you grow into. It's a way of building a calm center, so your emotions no longer drag you from one extreme to another. And if you decide to practice even a small part of what you learned today, you'll notice something slowly begin to shift. The things that used to provoke, you won't have the same power. You'll respond instead of reacting. You'll carry a kind of quiet strength that people around you will feel, even if they cannot explain it. Before you go, I want to ask you something. What is the one moment in your daily life where you lose your calm the fastest? Think about it. Name it. Put it in the comments. Not a long story, just the moment. That's where your practice starts. And if you found value in this, consider subscribing. It helps the channel grow, and it tells me you want more videos on Japanese disciplines and the philosophy behind them. Leave a like as well. It shows me that these topics resonate with you, and it motivates me to keep bringing you the best work I can offer. Thank you again for being here. Take your time. Breathe deeper today. And may your mind stay steady, even when the world is not. I'll see you in the next video.